So how open and honest should you be with your kids? I was texting with my cousin back and forth the other day, and we were just talking about, she watches my videos, and she told me actually her daughter, my, I guess, second cousin, I just call her my niece, it's easier, also watches the videos. And I had asked her if she thought that was a good idea, just based on a lot of the stuff that I talk about, family stuff, and I don't want her to learn too much about her uncle and stuff like that. So my cousin had asked me, what she thought or what I thought about, she says she tries to be as open and honest with her daughter as possible. And what were my thoughts on it? I have a 20-year-old son, so he's like 5 years older than her daughter. And I told her, I was really open and honest with my oldest son, and it kind of bit me in the ass a little bit. I thought telling him everything and being would teach him. I thought that exposing him to all the mistakes I made, and when he was younger is when I was drinking and partying a lot, and he was exposed, he was around a lot of it till he was about maybe 3 years old is really when 3 or 4 years old, I really stopped calming down. So I doubt he really remembers a whole lot of it. However, I was honest with him about it, with experimenting with drugs as a teenager and getting in fights as a kid and getting in trouble. His mom and I, when we were younger, she moved in with me at my parents' place and lived with me, when he was a kid. So some of these that came back to bite me in the ass. He, when he was 17 years old, I think he might have been 18. No, he was 17. And still in high school. He had a job. His girlfriend didn't have a job. She didn't have a car. And she said that, her parents threw her out of the house and could they come live here? And I told them absolutely not. But of course he throws it in my face. Nana let, mom move in and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, my mom got it wrong. You guys can't stay here. Neither one of you guys are over the age of 18. Both of you guys are in high school. She doesn't have a job or a car. I was like, come and talk to me when both of you guys graduate. Both of you guys are working, and both of y'all have a car. So they up and move out and find some room to rent for way too, like $800 a month. And I'll show you, Dad. Go for it. But you're not doing it here. I'm not condoning it. Bottom line. And then they ended up moving back in eventually, when they both turned 18. They both graduated school, and I could charge you rent. Now you can rent a room from us and come stay here. But I think that it, taught him. I didn't bend the knee because it was something that, I did when I was younger. The same thing with, smoking pot and vaping. I caught him with that stuff in high school, and it was, dude, you do the same thing in school. And I'm like, yeah, I told you all those things hoping you wouldn't do them. When he was, I forget, maybe like 13 or 14, I remember him telling me, 'cause I used to tell him all the time, like, if that's stuff you want to do when you're an adult, that's fine. But when you're younger, your brain's still developing, and you don't need to be smoking pot when your brain's still developing. You need to learn how to deal with high school issues and emotions and things like that. And you can't just numb yourself out with weed all day. And he used to regurgitate that stuff to me, like, yeah, Dad, you're right. If I'm going to stay away from that stuff. Well, he didn't. So I don't know. There's definitely a fine line between telling your kids too much and completely sheltering them from the world, because it goes the other direction. You know, one of my girlfriends growing up, her parents were really strict, and she wasn't allowed to see me. She would have to like sneak out to come and visit me. Her aunt, fortunately, lived, well, not fortunately, but I mean, her aunt lived across the street from us. So that's how I met her. And she would come down and stay with her aunt. You know, she lived, her and her parents lived about an hour away. So she would come down and visit her, you know, aunt for the weekend. And that's when I'd get to see her. Well, when she turned 18 and she was allowed to do, you know, go out on her own, she went crazy. You know, just drinking and partying and making up for lost time, I guess, you know. And so it's like a double-edged sword, you know. How much do you tell your kids? You know, it's hard to, you know, there's no handbook on this. You know, my cousin was, said the other day that both of our oldest are guinea pigs because the way I parent my other two kids is very different from the way I parented my first kid. You know, my middle son, I probably won't tell him as much as I told my older son. I'm definitely going to be more strict on him and more of a, I don't want to say a helicopter parent, but I'm definitely going to be on his ass more than I was with my older son. I feel like I was too lenient on my older son. I think I just let him kind of like, you know, boys need to kind of figure things out the hard way. You know, all those lessons I thought I taught my son, he doesn't listen to dad. He thinks dad doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But a month later, he'll come to me and be like, Dad, you were right. I should have listened. You know, and just some lessons in general, you're going to have to learn the hard way. Tucker! Sorry, my dog's out here wandering around. He'll wander off into the woods. Tucker! So yeah, I don't know. I mean, tell me what you guys think in the comment. You know, are you guys pretty open with your kids? Do you feel like they learn more from your mistakes? Or are they just going to look at it as, well, my dad did this as a kid. My mom did this as a kid. So it's okay for me. You know, they use it as a, because I know I did it. You know, when I was younger, my mom told me that she smoked cigarettes up until, I think, getting pregnant with me. So when she caught me with a pack of cigarettes when I was a teenager, I said, well, you smoked. So I don't know. It's a double-edged sword. Like I said, I would hope it's hard. You know, I can't tell you how many times I told my older boy, I'm trying to teach you the mistakes I made. It's like really hard to teach you that I did this and it was a mistake, and for you to listen and learn and realize, you know, without trying to skip the you figuring it out on your own, you know. And a lot of it, I guess, is, you know, I can't say lead by example because I thought I was. I thought I, you know, kind of led him away from all that stuff. You know, I quit drinking and quit partying. Obviously, I fell into another addiction, which he wasn't really exposed to until like the last year before me getting sober. But, you know, kids can definitely tell when there's something up with mom and dad. You know, I used to be at all of his, you know, soccer practices, and, you know, his last year before going into high school, I would take him to soccer practice, but I would hang out in the truck, where before I was teaching or coaching soccer, or I'd at least be out on the field, you know, watching the games. And, you know, they pick up on it. But I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Is it good to be open and honest with your kids? Should you limit how much you tell them? I'm definitely going to be, my 1-year-old and my 11-year-old definitely are going to know a lot less about me and his mom than my 20-year-old, that's for sure. And it's just, you know, we're at way different parts of our lives. You know, he was younger and more exposed. When my oldest son was younger, he was exposed to a lot of it. And we're just way different people now in our 40s. So yeah, tell me what y'all think.